The designation of Nigeria as a country of concern, of course, has created significant diplomatic tension and raised concerns about potential economic implications. Of course, only last week, Donald Trump, in that tweet, did raise some concerns about what he termed as genocide in Nigeria. That a lot of Nigerians have countered that, they've denounced that huge word, and it is understandable that everyone who lives in Nigeria know that the crisis or the insecurity going on affects everyone. It cuts across religion, cuts across ethnicity. We are all going through the consequences of the insecurity. What we should be focused on is the government to take action to ensure that this insecurity that has been with us since 2009 is brought to an end. But let's look at the potential economic implication of this threat from Donald Trump. He's even threatening that if nothing is done, that he is going to bring in American troops to come and end the insecurity in Nigeria. But that's not our focus. Our focus is the economic implication. How is this affecting the foreign investors who wants to come to Nigeria? I'm being joined in the studio by Mr. Wilson Agaba. He is an economic analyst. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
How do you receive that news from Donald Trump? I mean, labeling Nigeria as what people now reduce to CPC, country of particular concern.
Well, for Donald Trump, he's a very interesting person. And he has a special way of doing things. So when I heard the news, I wasn't very surprised because it's coming from Donald Trump. And I saw it coming because once the senators were mentioning it, and once the Israel-Palestinian thing was going down, the Iran issue was settled, and then, the Russia-Ukraine issue seems to be under the radar for now. He will look for something to get involved with. He is a showman. He likes to be on the news. And once his attention is turned to anything, he wants to be part of that thing and do something about it, or just talk about it for the talk thereof. So once I heard the senator talking about that bill, and I said it won't take long before Donald Trump says something. And alas, right. he said something. It didn't come to me as a surprise. And but then what I did not really appreciate is the reaction, the official reaction of government officials to these issues. That declaration was a trap, but it also was an opportunity for us to paint a better picture of us. I made a post yesterday that if somebody says your mouth smells, your duty is to find a way to confirm if it is true or not. If it's a lie, you can come back and tell the person, well, maybe it's your nose, and because I've confirmed that it doesn't smell. But if it smells, then without coming out to come and make much noise about it, you do something about it. And if you need to come out, you come and clarify, oh yes, I just found out, I didn't know before, but I'm doing something about it. Or you can tell the person, I'm well aware of this, and I have taken XYZ step towards solving this problem. That is a more elegant way of handling this issue. Why do I say so? This is not because I expect our leaders and government officials to be afraid of the United States. But you should know your opponent and weigh whether or not you can win a fight. They have a better global media than us. If Nigeria speaks and America speaks, who will the world listen to? So we want to make sure that we are way ahead of them tactically when we respond to anything that comes from the White House.
Indeed, of course, we need to be ahead of them. That's a very good one. But America, as we know, if you're given the antecedents in other places, they don't go to a place without a particular interest. I remember when they invaded Iraq, it was an accusation of a nuclear bomb.
Yes.
No nuclear bomb was found.
Up to date.
Up to today. The same thing happened in Libya. We see how devastated Libya it is right now. But come down to Nigeria. And with the kind of economy that we have crude oil. If you go to almost every part of this country, we have mineral resources. Go to Zamfara State, you have gold. Jos, you have tin, columbite, and so many of them. In Kogi State, Itekpe, iron ore, and so many, a lot there. Do you think America is just using this as a bait to explore Nigerian natural mineral resources?
Well, let me tell you something. America, from a historical perspective, does not give anything without taking. And America operates like a business entity. For them to give 10 naira, they have to get at least 1 million from there. So every of their relationship is strategically profitable to them. If it does not profit America, America does not get involved. So nobody should go to sleep and say, oh, America is going to come in and it is for our benefit. It will never be for your benefit. You might get a little benefit from it, but America will benefit more.
The consequences is usually more.
Exactly. Then let's now add that philosophy to the philosophy of the person who is the president, Donald Trump. A businessman, a deal maker. I see him as a very shrewd businessman. Not that that is bad, because when I have ethics class with my MBA student, one thing I tell them is that business in itself is profit-oriented. And whatever you do legally to make profit is part of the game. However, there is something that connects morality with business, and that is called ethics. Now, absolutely. Trump is a very shrewd person. As long as it's within the law, he doesn't care. So he's going to press you, and he's going to get what he wants for his country. He has told you. His philosophy is America first. So why would Trump bring his troop, risk the possibility of killing one of their soldiers, which, you know, an average American soldier cost them more than $5 million to train? They are not going to come and throw $5 million away for the sake of Nigeria if there's nothing in it for them. You should have seen we should have known this from the kind of deal that have been submitted to Ukraine. I mean, the kind of negotiation and all proposals and all of that. So, and coupled with what you mentioned, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, you can name it. Where did America go and left them better? We don't want them to put boots on ground. However, there's a truth on ground. People have been dying. And it doesn't matter their race, their ethnicity, their creed, their gender,
or even their
age, or their location. No Nigerian deserves to die. And to a large extent, all of us will agree that the political elite have treated this matter with what we now perceive as kid gloves. Was it not Abacha who stated that if insurgency lasts beyond 24 hours, it means the government of that jurisdiction has a hand in it? He was a head of state, a military general at the time. So I don't think he was telling nonsense. I think he knew what he was talking about.
All right, let's look at the possible consequences now for Nigeria. Nigeria is a country that relies so much on borrowing.
Oh, yes.
What do you think is going to be the implication of this diplomatic relationship between America on our cost of borrowing and investors' risk, for, particularly?
Well, let's start first with...
Even the value of Naira too is threatening.
Yes, let's start with the foreign aids. And I think that's the first place he's going to go. We have made ourselves dependent on this type of aid so much, even though people like me don't believe in it. You know, my father always said that if you continue to eat in somebody's house and the person does not eat in your house, that person is your master. So don't always be the taker. Also give. So once you are taking foreign aid from somebody, you are selling your dignity to that person. So I don't believe in foreign aid, but well, since we have designed our budget and our life around it, that could be cut, and that's going to have economic implication. Secondly, you mentioned the issue of borrowing. The reason for interest rate is the risk I incur for allowing you to take my money and use it for a reasonable period of time. So if I know you have a high risk of not paying back, I will charge you more interest rate. So statement like this and designation like this can make Nigeria unattractive for borrowing. And even when they are going to give us, we now have some stringent conditions, including collateralizing some of these loans with some natural resources from our country. You know, so it's going to have that effect on us. And secondly, let's go to the private sector. If you are an investor and the United States of America has designated the country in this manner, and you have a plan for investment in that economy, what are you going to do? You are going to wait for a while.
Put your plan on hold.
Put the plan on hold. Let's see how things play out. You will see this happening. And of course, this is going to affect eventually our stock prices and all of those things. Now, you mentioned the value of Naira. Of course, the value of the Naira is dependent on how many people out there are looking for the Naira. So, if we are producing things that the world needs, then the value of the Naira will go up. What I mean by that is we exchange less Naira for more dollars. But if we are producing less, then the value of the Naira will drop. That means we will pay more Naira for less dollars. Okay. Now, why is this interlinked? If there are no more foreign investors, we don't have supply of dollars. And that means our economic activities locally cannot improve. And if these activities don't improve, then we cannot expect to add more value to the Naira. So you see, it is all encompassing. And unfortunately, today's world is highly globalized due to technological advancement and the available of various mass communication platforms, social medias and the rest. So before you know it, one single statement in the US today, within the next 24 hours, it has gone global, and everybody is reacting and adjusting to it. So definitely, it's going to have impact. These are the primary impacts we are talking about.
No doubt, this is a negative headline.
Yes.
No matter how you want to paint it, it's a negative headline against Nigeria. And of course, for investors, like you mentioned, will begin to have a rethink about bringing their money into a country that has been designated as a country of particular concern. But let's look at it now from the government angle now. You talk about when there is no supply of dollar foreign currency.
Yes, yes.
What do you think we should do to ensure that we have enough to absorb this shock that we may likely going to expect in the event of sanctions, for example?
Well, like I said, people who are into communication, corporate communication and the rest of it, they tell you that no publicity is bad. Even bad publicity is an opportunity for you to sell. So if the government of the day know their onions, the whole world is paying attention to us because of the statement by Donald Trump. This is an opportunity for us to tell the whole world what we have to offer, what we are made of, that we are not as bad as we have been painted out there. So if you have a strategic and controlled conversation about this issue, it's going to turn good for the country. However, I don't think the political elite are looking at it that way. They are rather throwing tantrums instead of sitting down, calling the expert and say, how do we turn this in our favor? That's one side of it. The other side of it is, how do we show off the possible consequences of this issue? I have mentioned it and I have continued to mention it, that I don't quite get the policy direction of this administration.
They're reforming.
Yes. The reform, you can reform, but you can have a laser-focused vision that everybody can buy into. So that as I'm seated here as an analyst, I am trying to explain to Nigerians how these reforms tie into these things. Maybe it's a strategy that they are using, but I think that strategy is not that very good. If we understand that strategy, we can say, okay, you can tweak this to increase local productivity. And if we can produce what we eat and eat what we produce, external shocks will have less effect on us. Now we can look at the items that we import most and look at the potentials that we have to develop and produce them here. And then we make strategic investment in them. This investment doesn't necessarily have to be money. It can be in policy terms. It can be in some kind of frameworks, government framework that will allow businesses in these areas to blossom. I listened to a clip of former President Obasanjo when he was saying that the issue of cement was becoming something else. And he went to Aliko Dangote and said, why won't you build a cement factory in Nigeria? And Dangote said to him, I'm paraphrasing now, that it is not profitable. That's a simple thing. I said, what can I do to make you build? Say, if you make it profitable, we will build. And he said, okay. He called his team and said, go and look at how this thing can be profitable. And he told Dangote, now you go and take the permit and start building. And he said, when Dangote came and said he was going to build a factory that would produce, was it 40 million metric tons per annum? And he said, people told him that this is not possible. That since we have existed, we have not produced that amount in a year before. One person cannot do it. He said, well, let him try. He said, he has people on the site. Every day that people were not there on the site, the critical people are not there, he will carry his phone and call Dangote and say, Oga, so person is not at the site too. He got to a point that the man has to say, Oga, why do you know more about this site than me? And he said, it's a government project. Even though it's your own, but it's going to affect this economy.
Exactly.
So what I'm saying is, if we have that kind of involvement in certain critical areas within the country, we'll be less susceptible to this kind of external shocks.
Indeed, that is a very good picture that you have painted now. And what do you think the Tinubu government should take from this? I mean, if you can actually give Dangote that kind of business environment or business, let me say, orientation now, as the case may be, at that time, what do you think can be done right now? We know Dangote has built another big project, the Dangote refinery, which is one of the biggest in the world. And by 2028, when it's upgraded, it's going to be the biggest in the world. You understand? So what do you think other investors should actually learn from this, and of course government to the kind of support that government should give to ensure that we have a very good business environment? You know,
I like to keep our conversation as plain as possible so that every viewer can understand relate, where we are coming from. Remember the immediate past administration of Muhammadu Buhari. His policy was eat what we produce and produce what we consume. Right? Now that led to closure of the borders and all of that. It was heavily criticized and all of that. But he didn't stop there. He now say, what are the items that we import most? Let's start with food.
That we can produce.
Yes. Let's start with food. Rice was identified. And what did they do? They pursue rice, investment in rice, from the outborers program to the whatever kind of loans that he dished out. Even though I faulted some of the processes, something was achieved. The policy was effective in that we were able to produce enough rice to feed us and also export. The problem afterwards was efficiency of the process. Were we producing at a price comparable with that of the Asians? No. What were the problem? Issues of seeds, issues of fertilizer, issue of land tenure system, issues of insecurity, issues of post-harvest loss. And these are things that I'm quite familiar with because I have worked with a seed company before, so I understand how these things are. The yield per hectare for our rice here is very low compared to what you have in Asia. And the average here, you have 2.5 tons per hectare. Those in Asia are doing 7 tons per hectare, some of them 10, 12. You know, so we needed to fix that. Now, if we continued in that direction, by now, we won't be thinking of let's open our border so that rice can come down. Because as we are producing here, we are also recruiting a lot of people. And one of the suggestions we had that time, because they say insecurity, and we needed to push the bandits and the insurgents and all of that to the extreme before we can farm. But that is not possible. People were being chased away from their farms and were being made to pay tax. And after paying the taxes, they even seize their product. And we say there's a quick fix. The government should embark on things like cluster farms and then you put the military in charge of it. So if we have a 10,000 hectare somewhere, and the military is in charge of that place, the bandit cannot come and collect taxes there.
Finally, before we go, we're almost out of time now. Let's look at the impact of these threats as well on development projects and jobs. What I mean is that most of our key sectors like the health, the energy, even some governance projects, they rely on aid from America and some other places. What impact do you think this will have for some of these development projects, especially the health sector?
It's a straightforward thing. Once the aids are not coming, funding for the project is cut off.
Do you think government should begin to provide alternative funding for all of these projects?
Of course. But then the question is, where would the alternative come from? Because we are already borrowing heavily, both externally and internally, to augment our budget. So where else are you going to go and borrow? And remember, in the beginning of this conversation, we mentioned the issue of higher risk of giving us loan. And so any loan we take now will come at a higher price.
Perhaps we should concentrate on taking domestic loans.
Exactly. But what I can say here is innovation. Just as in private organization, we talk about innovation as a key answer to everything. Innovation is what this government should sit down and thinking outside the box. And I believe the brains are enough in Nigeria to get that done.
Absolutely. The brains are indeed there. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson Agaba, economic analyst. We appreciate your time and contributions on Business Daily today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. With that is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'm Yusuf Akogun.